What's up, guys? Welcome to Mr. Mustache MMA News. Today, I want to discuss last night's UFC 302 pay-per-view main card, basically what happened, what we saw, what my thoughts were, some of the scorecards, and basically what's next for the fighters. This is my first live breakdown, so let's see how it goes. Let's start from the top. Islam Makhachev submits Dustin Poirier in the 5th round in a fight, man, I thought was close. I know two of the judges, they gave Islam 3 out of 4 rounds. The other judge, I want to say Chris Lee, gave him, I think it was 2-2 going into the 5th. Pretty much the same way that I scored it as well. I gave rounds 2 and 4 to Dustin, but they were close. I think that you could have given 3 rounds to Islam. I don't really think that that's really crazy to think about. But nonetheless, man, Dustin went out there and was a fucking dog. He battled adversity from the very beginning, getting taken down in the very first minute, the very first round, weathering the storm. Islam took his back and was fighting for that neck. Faking to go mount just so that he can go out there and try and get the submission, right? And Islam just looked good, man. His gas tank, obviously, after that first round dwindled. He was not able to find the finish, and you could see that he struggled because of it after that, and Dustin was able to find so much success with Islam's gas tank being dwindled in the way that it was, and Dustin fought like his life depended on it, which is exactly what he needed to do, right? He did, because at times Dustin kind of accepts really shitty positions. He showed that in that Charles Oliveira fight where he just lacked a sense of urgency as the fight went on, and you didn't see that in this Islam fight. He fought like it could have been his last fight. You saw that back against the wall, dangerous. I was about 7 bong packs deep at that point, so I feel like I saw him knock Islam down, but I could be really wrong about that as well. I know Islam fucked him up too in the feet at times, but Dustin went out there, man, and showed that after this fight, I don't want to see him retire. I don't want to see Dustin retire. He showed right there that he can go against arguably the pound for pound guy in the world. I don't think Islam is. I think John Jones is. I think that's just obvious. And John Jones beat everybody at 205. I think Dana said it perfectly in the post-fight press conference where, yeah, Islam beat the champion below, but, he hasn't really gone up yet, which is what Islam said he wants to do. It's his dream. He wants to go fight Leon Edwards next, which I like. But for Dustin to go out there and have that performance against someone as dominant as Islam has been over the years, I think just shows that Dustin's still right in the thick of it. And if Islam goes up for that double champ status, that can leave more opportunities for Dustin to get bigger paydays and term belts. You know what I mean? But Dustin has a lot of money still on the table, even though he does have financial freedom. And I think that he can still put on good performances. I think that we still have a Dustin Poirier out there that can still do some damage. So I hope to see him fight in the future. If he decides to hang it up, wouldn't hate it either. But I would definitely like to see more from Dustin Poirier moving on. As for Islam, he did say he wants to go up to 170, fight for the title there, whether that's Bilal Muhammad or Leon Edwards. I like that. I think Islam going up, and because, yeah, sure, defend the belt at 155, but I bet that weight cut's pretty tough for him. He is pretty big for 155. So nonetheless, I'd like to see Islam go up and fight for another belt. I think that would be really cool. Whether that would be Leon Edwards or Bilal Muhammad, I think those matchups would be really nice, and that would really test Islam fighting guys more at his weight, because I do think that he is kind of more of a welterweight than he is a lightweight, because I think that weight cut, that really affects his cardio that much more. I think we saw that in the first Volkanovski fight, and I think that we saw that here in the Poirier fight, because once he was not able to find that finish in the first round, even though he had that body lock, he put a lot of energy into his legs. And just so once he wasn't able to find that finish at the end of the first, you saw that gas tank dwindle on him a bit. But nonetheless, great fight, great win for Islam. Dustin looked good in defeat. Can't wait to see what's going to happen with these guys moving forward. But Dustin, I'd like to see him fight more. In Islam, I would not hate if he were to go up at 170 and fight at 170. Moving next to the co-main event, Sean Strickland defeats Paulo Costa by split decision in a fight where I scored a 49-46 for Strickland. I thought Costa took the first round. I thought that even though he was moving backwards, the entire time and kind of in a retreat position. He was kind of doing that to use his game. I thought his leg kicks were really good against Strickland. Strickland was having a really hard time with those leg kicks. And I thought that Costa was still pretty sharp. He was landing some good jabs. He was landing some good body kicks. And even though he was moving backwards, he was kind of using that for his own game. So I gave the first round New Costa, but as that fight went on, I just thought the pressure, that forward movement of Strickland was just too much. And you just saw Costa just not be as effective as the rounds went on. You just saw that gas tank go down. And whoever gave that fucking fight to Costa, what was it, 50-45 or 49-46 for Costa? My God, someone sat there for 25 minutes and was like, yo, Costa's looking good right now. That's wild to me. And which just goes to show, like, how much the commission just does not, like, they have it out for Sean. That split decision loss that he had to Cannonier, he won that fight. He won that fight 49-46. The fight against Dricus, he was robbed 100%. Gave that fight to Dricus. And you could just tell, like, Sean is battling more than just his opponent. He is battling these judges and the commission out there because they clearly don't want him to win. It's so wild to me what these judges are watching. And there's an agenda. There's a clear agenda. There's no way that somebody who is a professional mixed martial arts judge is like, yep, that was Costa's fight. Yep, 100%. Yep, that was Dricus' fight. Even though Dricus had his moments, it was a robbery. So for Sean to still go out there and get the victory, it was just when you saw that split decision, you're just like, no fucking way. It makes you nervous, and it's almost it's appalling. You know, it's not as bad as boxing, but it's still fucking appalling. But for Strickland to go out there and implement his game plan and just bully a guy who's as explosive, dynamic, athletic, powerful as Costa, it was good. It was cool to see. And for Strickland, after the fight, he said he's waiting for his title shot, which he should do. That's exactly what he needs to do. Because for them talking about Izzy coming back and getting a title shot right away after losing to Strickland in the way that he did, and Strickland not getting the title shot after losing a very, very, I wouldn't even really say all that close of a fight where I thought he got robbed against Dricus. So it's strange to sit there and watch that type of stuff happen, you know, and I'm happy that Sean is sticking up for himself and putting his foot down and saying, no, like I've put in my work. I fought the top dogs for a long time. You guys went out there and forced me to fight Costa when I didn't even want to do it in the first place. I did it, passed the test. I'm waiting for my fucking goal. That's what I'm here for. I'm not going to fight these killers at this weight class for no reason. So I completely understand where Sean's coming from, and that's exactly what he should do. He should wait for his title shot because then he's going to end up like what was her name? I forgot the lady's name, but she was destined for a title shot, took a short notice fight. Her face is right. She just retired off a win, too. If you guys know, please put in the comment section what her name was, if you guys know what I'm talking about. And she blew her chances for a title shot, and then now, like, she's retired. You know, yeah, she left on a win, but, I mean, just 3 years ago, she was the number one contender. Gosh, what's her name? She's Scottish. Fuck. Anyways, nonetheless, happy for Sean. Paulo went out there and tried to play the matador. You know, he tried to maybe let Sean kind of fall into his strikes, and that just didn't work. He fell right into Sean's game, which is kind of what most fighters do. But Paulo, he had his moments of success. That first round, he looked really good, but he just wasn't able to keep that up for 25 minutes. And I think even in my breakdown, I forgot that it was even a five-round fight. Because I even said, like, I thought that Sean would get that. I thought the accumulation of strikes would lead up by the third round, thinking that as a 3-round fight, that's how Sean would fight. But once I was like, oh, yeah, this is 5 rounds. This is Sean's fight. Like, if Sean survives the first 2 rounds, he should be able to walk away with the rest, you know, with the last 3 of the rounds, right? So Costa, though, he's put himself in a weird position where he hasn't come out on top all the time. But I think that with the Whitaker and Chimaev fight, I know that he has the loss to Whitaker. So I think win or lose, I think he should fight Chimaev next. With all the history, I think he beats Chimaev. I think everything going on with Chimaev and Kadyrov, I think Kadyrov is completely ruining the career of Khamzat Chimaev. And we're going to see that continue to happen. And because you got Whitaker and Chimaev coming up really soon. And I think Whitaker wins that fight. I know everybody thinks I'm out of my fucking mind and everybody's off the Whitaker train. And everybody thinks he's chinny. But I just don't think Hamzat's that good. And I think we saw that against when he fought Usman on short notice. Usman almost won that fight in 3 rounds on short notice, a former welterweight. Right? And you know that a lot of people say that Hamzat's a welterweight as well. But my point being, does Usman beat Whitaker? No, I don't think so. And Usman fought a close fight against Hamzat. So I just don't think I just don't think that that's going to work out. And I see Whitaker beating Hamzat, but I think no matter what happens with that fight, I think Hamzat fights Costa next, and I think Costa gets the victory. I think Costa beats Hamzat almost everywhere. I just think he's overly physical, and I think that once Hamzat's not going to be able to get that first round submission over Costa, it's going to be a rough 2 rounds after that for him. But I think Costa looked good, even though he lost. You know, I just think that he just had the wrong game plan against Strickland. I think that if he would have just not moved backwards so much and not relied on his cardio for 25 minutes, I think it would have been a different fight. And I just think that he played right into Sean's game. I don't even think he realized it until it was too late. But yeah, next, I think Strickland waits for his title shot no matter what happens. He's deserved it. Next, I think Costa. I think maybe Hamzat Chimaev, no matter what happens with Hamzat Whitaker, I think that that's the fight to make next. Next up, Kevin Holland, armbar over Michal Oleksiejczuk in a crazy turn of events where you saw Michal just drop Kevin with that left overhand. You're like, oh shit. You even see Kevin, the look on his face when he hit the mat. Like, oh, you got me. But man, when Michal dove in for the ground and pound and went for the finish, he left his arm in. And right away, Kevin Holland capitalized on that, and it was just too late. He just did not react quick enough to that armbar, but didn't tap. And a lot of people were mad at her for stopping that fight, but it looked like it dislocated. You almost looked like you saw the dislocation happen. So, at that moment, he's there to protect the fighter. When you see a dislocation, you got to stop the fight. Watching it from my point of view on the camera, it looked like it dislocated. And it looked like that Herb even still let it continue a few more seconds. So I think that it was a good stoppage. Props to Michal for not tapping in that fight. That was pretty wild. But next up, too, you got Kevin Holland, who's had a little bit of inconsistencies throughout middleweight, throughout welterweight. He was riding the 2-fight losing streak. Now he's got the win. But I think a fight over Jeff Neal or maybe a Michael Morales, I think would make perfect sense for Kevin Holland. Michael Morales, 16-0, right at that ranking status. And I think that Kevin Holland is like that good gatekeeper position to welcome a guy like Michael Morales. Or Jeff Neal, who's coming off a couple losses now, kind of get himself back into those winning ways. I think that would be also a really, really good fight. Fireworks, action-packed fight between Kevin Holland, Jeff Neal. I think that makes a lot of sense. As for Michal, I think just take some time off. I think that's the best move. Take some time off. Let the arm heal. You got a lot of good matchups. He's a good fighter. He's an exciting fighter. He's been around for a long time. So I just think maybe take a year off. Let the division play out. And just let himself heal up, because now he had that loss to Michel Picheda where he got choked out, and now he's got the loss where he had his arm pretty mangled up by the end of that first round. So I just think some time off for Michel, or for Kevin Holland. I think a Michael Morales or Jeff Neal would be a great fight. Next up, oh yes, Randy Brown over Dos Santos. A good back and forth fight. You had two guys just battle of attrition. Oh, well, Price over Alex Morono. Let's talk about that first. Let's talk about Nico Price and Alex Morono, because even in victory, Nico Price has kind of put himself in a weird position where it was a back and forth fight. Neither guy really made a massive statement for themselves. The issue I have with Alex Morono too, he looks so good early, always looks dangerous early. But when that third round hits, he's tired. And whenever he fights these guys who pack a bigger punch than he does, that's where he starts to get tagged up. The Joaquin Buckleys, the Nico Prices, the Santiago Ponzinibbio's. That's where kind of he struggles, where I just like to see Alex Morono be in better shape, have better cardio going into these fights, because with the way that he fights, his output, he's active. He's got fast hands. I just like to see him with just looking a little bit better shape. I'd like to see him in better shape going into these fights, because he's not out there chasing belts, and it's obvious, but I'd like to see him take his cardio a little bit more seriously because I think that you'd be able to see him close out these fights a little bit better, not worrying so much about the gas tank because he's so active so early. He's not, you don't really see that same output later on, and you see him breathing with his mouth open, getting caught. That fight with Ponzinibbio was a great example where he was just so sharp, so precise early on, but as it went on, Pons was able to find his mark, and that's kind of how you saw it too with Nico Price, where as that fight went on, you saw Nico start to take over a little bit. So I thought they got it right. I think it was rounds 2 and 3. I gave it to Nico Price. I think he dropped Alex, but Nico, he's just in this weird position where he's taking a lot of damage. He's getting up there. You don't really see a whole lot happening for him. He's exciting, but I don't know. But Alex Morono, he's already fought. I mean, he's kind of already fought everybody in that spot. I don't know if Kevin Gastelum, Gabriel Bonfim, I think would be a good fight. Maybe Gabriel Bonfim, Alex Morono, I think would be a really good fight because you got Bonfim is coming off that TKO loss to Nicholas Dalby, so I think maybe that would be a good matchup. You got Renat, who's had that draw to Zaleski dos Santos as well. But Morono's kind of put himself in a weird position. He's fought. He's had his ups and downs. He's fought a lot of guys. He's been very active, but he hasn't really been able to get over that hump to fight those next guys. So you might see him fighting these prospects. So maybe a Michael Morales next for Alex Morono as well. And and as for Nico Price, with him getting that victory, maybe a Gunnar Nelson. Santiago Ponzinibbio would be a good fight if they have. I feel like they fought already. But maybe a Daniel Rodriguez, but I feel like D-Rod's fighting. He might be fighting Kelvin, right? Welterweight's a weird division. Phil Rowe, who already fought Nico Price. So, you have Alex Morono, Nico Price. They're both kind of in this weird position where they've kind of gone through the carousel of everybody kind of in the top 16 to 25, right? It's a very deep division. But nonetheless, both guys went out there and showed heart, showed grit. Nico got a good victory. I just think Alex just needs to tighten it up a little bit with that cardio, his athleticism. Just get in better shape. Show the road work. Because, he clearly has the baby fat to lose. Yeah. But last but not least, opening up the main card, Randy Brown defeats Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos in a back-and-forth fight where Randy Brown looked good early. He was able to utilize his reach, that jab. He's just so big and long for the weight class. And just those front kicks, 1-2s down the middle. He was really able to keep Dos Santos just guessing, right? Hesitating to really break that distance. And later on, Dos Santos was definitely able to find some good positions, reverse some good positions on the ground, get the fight to the ground. But it just wasn't enough to just battle back and kind of just get the points onto the judges' scorecards. And it was dirty. He made it dirty. He had his moments, but against a guy who's just so long, so hard to just get to and hit. I would have liked to have seen him kick the legs of Randy Brown a little bit more. I feel like I saw some leg kick checks in that fight. I don't know. It was a long night, but nonetheless, Randy Brown moves forward. What's next for him? Maybe a Nicholas Dalby? Maybe a Michael Morales? Maybe a Michael Chiesa who's on a 3-fight losing streak? Maybe a Jeff Neal? That's kind of, I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts as well, too. But nonetheless, I thought it was a really good card. I enjoyed it. The prelims were fun. Shout out to Mickey Gall and Basil Hafez, even though I don't think the judges got that fight correct. I thought Mickey won rounds 2 and 3. But that second round, too, though, Basil found some good success early on. But I thought that the damage in Mickey Gall really just accumulated towards the end of the second round and the third round. But I'm not talking about that right now. Just a little bit of a shout out for the early prelims, for the return of Mickey Gall. And just, Basil putting on a good performance as well, showing good chin, heart, grit, forward movement. Dude's a beast, man. Nonetheless, guys, great card, great pay-per-view. UFC 302 was a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a good night as well. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. What's next for Islam, Dustin, Strickland, Costa, Holland, Oleg Stashik, Randy Brown, Alicia Zaleski dos Santos, Nico Price, and last but not least, Alex Morono. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what's next for all these elite athletes in the UFC. Love this fucking sport, guys. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.